Hello there, my very good friends. On today's afternoon news video, WWE talent are frustrated with a certain new policy.
AEW's pay-per-view climax explained.
One of the Full Gear matches is getting very high praise.
And could Kenny Omega be back in AEW very soon?
What? I'm Andrew.
I'm Michael.
Alright, it's the second news video of the day. If you missed the first one, where we spoke about the Rizzler, Jade Cargill's injury, Ricky Stark's been back in AEW, and some other cool stuff, check that out after you've watched this one, though, of course. We'll link it at the end. But let's kick this one off by talking about a new WWE policy that is causing a bit of frustration in the company. This is coming to us from Fightful Select. Some talent are upset that WWE no longer does as many comp tickets for friends and family. Previously, if WWE was rolling into town, talent, employees, independent contractors, whoever, could go, "Hello, boss. My family live here. Can they have some tickets?" Boss would say yes. Now, not so much the case, and instead, talent are getting like links a lot of the time to like a pre-sale thing. So they can still get a ticket relatively, because it's before general sale, but at the same time they have to pay for it in some situations here. And that has caused a little bit of frustration. This has hit a new high in recent weeks, according to Fightful, who say that numerous talent have expressed frustration that comps are no longer available in many cases. Instead, they're getting this pre-sale link. There's no word on whether or not this applies to talent across the board or just some talent. But I mean, you can imagine if Roman Reigns goes, "I want a ticket," they're getting a ticket. Right? We're just speculating. That's not in this story. But it does affect a number of talent in the company. One higher-up claimed that this was a product of WWE's success and had confirmed that the company had even used less seat fillers than in previous years because the company is a hot ticket. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. If you're selling loads of tickets, you don't need to then use seat fillers, which is the practice of just like giving tickets out and stuff like that. People get paid to go to shows and stuff to fill seats. It happens in like every single sport. And the only time it's ever gotten criticism in wrestling is when AEW did it. Work that one out in your heads. But apparently when asking for comps, talent send in a little request, and if it's granted, they're informed, they're given a notification via email. That goes out to whoever got the ticket was for. So if it was for your mum would get an email going, "Mum, you've got a ticket, wonderful." One talent said that they took issue with the change, saying that there was no written info or update provided on the change and that they were kind of told by talent relations. One talent also said that they had comp tickets approved months before the show, and then the week of the show they were asked to pay for them via credit card. So sounds like a communication issue more than anything else. I think that any situation where you take away employees' benefits is it's always going to land poorly with the employees. Like, I doubt very highly, if you're an employee and you have something nice that your company does for you and they take it away, you're not sitting there going, "Oh, well, they're making loads of money, so I'm still happy." It's like, no, that doesn't really impact you. What impacts you is something like your children being able to watch you for free at the show or whatever. So yeah, I can see why it would cause negative impact. It's the kind of thing that if you are a manager or boss of a massive company like WWE, if you're going to make that change, you kind of just need to communicate it a little bit better. A couple of months in advance, "Hey, we're not doing this anymore." Everyone, make sure everybody knows. The worst thing you can possibly do is guarantee someone a ticket and then go, "Actually, no, you have to pay for that." That's whack. But also, like, WWE doesn't need help filling buildings at the moment. That's why this has happened. At the same time, I think if you're taking benefits away, you kind of have to communicate it.
Yeah, I don't doubt that the wrestlers affected by this will be aggrieved. And if it's happening more than once, and it's like any workplace, there will be conversations going on between the wrestlers. "Oh, has this happened to you?" "Yeah, it's happened to me as well." And especially if you're like a higher profile figure, you named Roman Reigns as an example, you would imagine somebody would get a ticket, but we don't have any guarantees on anyone. So this could be from the very, very top down. Who knows? Pardon me here, as the resident Dr. Fed of WhatCulture, to veer off my usual fedical training here. I felt like screaming "Le Gentle" when I read this story this morning. Only slightly, WWE's houses are actually down year on year from 2023 to 2024, and we did not hear this story last year.
No.
I don't doubt that this story is true. I am certainly not questioning the wonderful reporting that always goes on by Fightful Select. And again, they tend to source and double source. So I'd fully expect that these comments have been given to them. But it does strike me as interesting that we're even discussing this, and it's too hot even for its own wrestlers' mums to get tickets. And I just get a story like this and I sort of think, could be the PR machine operating at full effect.
At the same time, it
just
doesn't
sort of magnifies a little something to me.
It doesn't really paint the company in a positive light, though. Like, because it's like people are upset.
The bottom line is because business is good, you know?
Yeah.
That's like...
Yeah, but I mean, you can read that anywhere, you know? Like, I don't know. I don't know if this really...
that's what stuck out to me.
Normally, I'm the first person to throw Chris Legental's name out there. I don't know if like... It just seems like a weird...
The best PR you can do is the PR that doesn't look like PR.
Yeah, but it's got to make you look good.
Yeah.
I don't think this does. I think this is a bit... it's just crony capitalism, isn't it? It's like, hey, guys, guess what? We make loads of money and you don't get any of it.
Oh, give the wrestlers' families the tickets. Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
You should, I'd imagine, like, a lot of shows will have, like, a blocked-off area or whatever, but like not now.
Especially while it's like they're going to be performing at the biggest audiences they'll ever play in front of. You'd want to think that sort of extra little perk, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, they use family when it works for them, don't they? Like you can't imagine WrestleMania taking place with Cody's mom not front row, for example. So
and a huge part of WWE's thing in the past couple of years has been kind of reinventing its image as like a nice place to work.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't under Vince by many accounts, and to. Like, a part of that is that, obviously, AEW, one of the 600 reasons that company formed in this perfect convergence of circumstances was the idea of being like a more talent-friendly place and stuff like that. So if there's anything WWE can do to present themselves as more of a talent-friendly place, that's positive because it creates, it creates a nicer perception
like the
and all this stuff.
Christmas breaks and stuff like
exactly.
that now,
And by all accounts, it is a much nicer place to be for talent and stuff for myriad reasons. So... Yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, it's not one... obviously, this doesn't impact anyone apart from talent.
Get the mums in the building.
Yeah, so it's not worth getting all raging about and stuff, I don't think, unless you're actually impacted by it. It's not worth some grand online crusade, like get the pitchforks out. What do you mean Mama Rhodes isn't getting a comp ticket or whatever? But it is a bit crappy to do that, I think.
Moms are good. Do you know what else I thought was good, but got a bit of divisive conversation over the weekend, was the end to AEW's Full Gear main event. Orange Cassidy lost, unfortunately, to Jon Moxley in the main event, but then what followed after that, quite unusually and atypically for AEW, especially in this era of these like heavy heat finales of the pay-per-views, was a series of follow-on events for those that haven't seen. In the aftermath, Willie was ultimately the difference maker, hitting Orange Cassidy with a psycho knee. After the fact, Hangman Page came out and smashed Willie with the chair. You then had a hugely dramatic standoff between Hangman Page and Jon Moxley, which distracted Moxley enough for Christian Cage to knock Moxley out with his metal contract. Christian Cage and Hangman Page, who have recently had an alliance on screen, sort of stood together for a second, with the indication being that Hangman was going to let Cage cash in there and then. Before he could do that, Jay White returned, having wrestled Hangman earlier on, to get his revenge on Christian Cage. Stop the cash-in happening. The whole thing sort of scatters. The Death Riders make their way to the car park. Seemingly, they've got a clean escape, a clean break, only to have their car smashed into by Darby Allin. They manage to sort of commandeer another vehicle and get the hell away, and then the camera sort of pans round to the destroyed Death Riders van, and Darby Allin's there effing and jeffing, saying, "Come back, Joan." So it's just a bananas way for an AEW show to go off the air. As I say, certainly they've not been afraid of just like ending things with the heavy heat of late. So this was a bit of a change around of things, and PW Insider say that this was very much by design to show how many challenges there are for the AEW World Championship. Yeah, you've got 3 laid out right there in the immediate aftermath of the Orange Cassidy match, and then a 4th in Darby Allin, kind of one of the hot favourites to dethrone Jon Moxley down the line. Certainly did, I thought at least, an effective job of not just establishing the challenges, but the little stories that have been being told on television that weekly TV doesn't necessarily do the best job of illustrating exactly who's winning, who's there, who's trying to get a jump on somebody else, that kind of thing. Maybe a sort of more effective restart of the Death Riders versus AEW story that didn't get the best of start. So yeah, this was all very much by design to try and illustrate to us, you the viewer, that there is indeed a laundry list of opponents for Jon Moxley on the horizon. Yeah,
I watching this, I had an interesting experience because initially I was like, oh, this is a bit messy, all these guys coming down. And I was like, why is Hangman here? And then I had to remember, oh yeah, the TV stuff. They've teamed up, blah, blah, blah. They've been a partnership. Okay, that makes sense, Jay White. But then it really started escalating, and I was like, okay, this is cool. Like the car crashing in. Like the only types of car angle I will respect in any wrestling are, number one, if it involves the Butcher and the Blade stealing a van, and number two, if it involves ridiculous violence, like Darby Allin trying to kill them by driving into the side of them. It certainly puts like the Camille Mercedes angle from a few weeks into perspective a little bit, doesn't it? We'll speak about Mercedes soon, by the way, in a good way. I'm a big Mercedes fan. Aside from that, I thought it was effective. I think that pivoting away from the spirit and the image of the company, that's what we're fighting to reclaim and stuff. I think that Jon Moxley's disappointment in other people to lift the company up, it's a more compelling storyline, and he can absolutely point to people like Jay White, Hangman Page, Darby Allin, whatever, in kayfabe. I'm still not totally keen on the idea of Christian having this thing that he can cash in. It's very WWE to me. I don't want it. I like Money in the Bank in WWE. It's a different environment, a different type of product. But I am a big Christian Cage guy, so I'm not mad at it either way. Good angle. I saw a lot of people ripping the piss out of it, but I mean, it's like, what do you want? What do you want? Do you want some stories, or do you want just like another plastic bag angle to end the show? Which, first one was good. Second one was good too.
We did talk about this in the predictions last week. My thing was that they were maybe going to reveal what exactly is in that briefcase, maybe the belt not as we last saw it, or something like that, because it did feel like Moxley's definitely winning. How exactly is this show going off the air? And it felt asked and answered to me with what we saw. Darby Allin, as a note to that, apparently, of course, didn't require a stuntman and did his own terrifying car crash bit, because of course he did.
He's going up Everest soon, I hope hope he's all right, the poor guy. No, good stuff. I think that Darby's going to win the belt off Moxley, but I think it's a 5-6 month
long old road,
which is good, because to me this feels like the first time in ages that they've like long-term bookmarked the next world champion, which is cool.
You want that, don't you?
Yeah. Sometimes predictable is good, and you just have a fun chase. Right, speaking of good, let's talk about Mercedes Money and Chris Statlander. They had a good match, very good match. One of the matches of the night. And kind of a restorative performance for Mercedes in particular, who's had a couple of less good matches recently. But yeah, according to PW Insider, they were the talk of the locker room after their match in Full Gear, and they got a bunch of praise, Statlander and Monet. Mercedes, of course, beat Chris, retained the TBS title, so that reign continues. They're doing a lot of creative-wise with her. They're teasing the Camille split a little bit too early. I think. I don't think that partnership has had many cool moments, or certainly enough to justify pulling them apart so soon. But it looks like that's the route they're going with. So the writing is still a concern, but a very highly rated match. One that resonated with a lot of people, and certainly like a clear cut above the Britt Baker and the Shida matches.
Oh yeah. I think Mercedes was in need of a very least a subjective success because of the subjective failure of the TV stuff with Chris Statlander, and indeed, as you point out, especially that like Wembley Turkarino with Britt Baker. I think it's
Turkarino.
Just like nobody has any positive memories of like that, even if you're privileged enough like to be in the building. It's the general sort of, what are we actually watching? There's just no great memories of it. So I think it's time. Like, no time like the present, I guess, for Mercedes Money to start making those memories. There's been flashes, the Willow Nightingale match at Double or Nothing, the Stephanie Vaquer match. There has been good bits of business with Mercedes Money, but I don't think when the conversations happen at the end of this year about like big runs or popular runs or success stories, I don't think she's going to be in those.
No.
So more matches like this heading into 2025 are going to stand her in good stead. Another great night on pay-per-view for Chris Statlander. Her and Willow, one of the AEW matches of the year for me, that Chicago street fight.
Certainly in terms of feeling as well.
Yeah, and again, like, it shouldn't be the case, but we've seen this, we saw it for about 20 years in WWE. Often when creative isn't great, it requires the wrestlers to elevate bad material. Yes. That's absolutely what both did. And Statlander often has to make a bit of a habit of it in AEW, truth be told. So just an incredibly valuable performer. And speaking of MVPs and the potential Camille split, of course, Mercedes was given the Hurt Syndicate card once upon a time, wasn't she?
She was.
So if that split is coming, I agree with you. I think it's a little bit rushed, but if it's to move her into that stable, I am all for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's like, if the thinking is that this hasn't worked out the way we want it to, we need a drastic change, fine. Yeah. Like, I love the Hurt Syndicate. I think that I don't think they had a great week on TV last week due to the way they were presented as like with the Swerve getting the hit and runs on them and stuff. Yeah. I wasn't so much into that, but like after the pay-per-view, listen, I might be the highest guy on the planet on Bobby Lashley versus Swerve. I don't care. I loved it. I thought it was I had the best time of my life watching that match because I love Bobby Lashley. So watching it pan out, it kind of starts off, I was like, oh, are we getting like Brock Lesnar Cena from that SummerSlam a few years ago? But then Swerve's comeback spots looked like automobile accidents. Like they were absurdly dangerous. They looked awesome. So like if it's Mercedes going into the hair business, I'm all in. And they said on the show as well, like when MVP was coming down with Bobby and Shelton, the commentators were like, MVP has said he's still adding to the group, so clearly some new people are coming. For me, it's Leo Rush and Mercedes, and that is an awesome stable.
Oh yeah.
But like, I haven't said anything nice about Chris Statlander. I probably should. I think that she is one of the best wrestlers in the entire company. I think that if you're going to rebuild this division or increase its presentation, whatever term you want to use, whether it's rebuild, maybe you think it's already great and it just needs a little pep in its step, whatever your perspective is, I think that people like her, people like Willow, Jamie Hayter, Mercedes, if she's going to reprise this form, there's like lots of really talented people in this scene, and she's one of the best. I think the Willow match was unbelievable, and I hope that Stat has the opportunity to be a divisional centerpiece soon, rather than just, and look, this is a good role, just the vanguard, like lifting everything up. That's a good role, but I think those efforts, I'd like to see them rewarded with some gold.
Couldn't agree more. Speaking of Willow, of course, she was part of that chaotic ending to the pay-per-view, making something of a return. Hopefully that concussion is all cleared, and we're going to get matches again, potentially with.
She also did the Riz face.
She obviously she knows where the money's made. But speaking of potential exciting returns, Kenny Omega could be back in AEW even sooner than we think. Obviously, the last time we saw him, he was participating in the angle with the Elite, who have since, the Young Bucks especially, have since gone on to work from home. Okada has been separated from them. Jack Perry's just lost his TNT title. So it's interesting to see how that's going to pick up. He is announced to wrestle at Wrestle Dynasty on January the 5th, 2025 against Gabe Kidd, per the angle that they set up when Kenny returned to New Japan. However, according to Fightful Select, after Tony Khan's media call this week, there is belief that Kenny Omega will wrestle in AEW before New Japan. So that would be, before that January the 5th date, whether that be on television. World's End is coming up. You mentioned the Hammerstein Dynamite will presumably be, despite being a small one, will be a big one, if you know what I mean. So there are certainly options for where a Kenny return could be imminent. But I think this has come as a bit of a shock, hasn't it? Just the mere fact that he was due to return as soon as January the 5th was enough. And obviously everybody's super grateful. I think Kenny Omega's an enormous miss in AEW. But he himself said, I don't think AEW needs me right now. I think I'm excited to make my return in New Japan. So this getting all accelerated has generated a bit of a buzz. I think it'd be amazing. I'd potentially, back in time for World's End, possibly something like that. It'd be awesome. Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see what comes of this, because the man, diverticulitis is very serious. This man almost died, for goodness sake. So I think that returning it's very ambitious to return in a big match in Japan against Gabe Kidd, in which the expectation will be sky high because it's Kenny Omega in Japan, and the standard he has set when wrestling in that company is in that country. Japan is not a company. Is exceedingly high. And he obviously, I'm not saying he hasn't had great matches in America too, but for me, his best stuff is in Japan. So for him to be returning there straight up is such a huge amount of pressure, but also very him to go, I won't start with a softball, I'm going to go right up here. I didn't expect this at all. It would be really cool to see him show up at some point. I think that the talk is that they're going to do the Kenny and the Bucks, they all return and they save AEW from the Death Riders. To me, a bit of a more compelling angle is probably Darby Allin finishing the Death Riders off. But if we bring Kenny in, I can't not be excited at that. He's been out for forever, and this is his second major absence of his AEW run, of course, after he was sidelined with 20 million different injuries the other year, the poor guy. He's a crap couple of years, injury and health-wise, and I want to see him back, and just back in the ring doing what he does best.
So many singles matches still to have. And
the Rizzler.
Well, indeed, we've got to get
Costco AJ.
The big Kenny Costco stuff. We've been talking about that for years, pretty much since AEW launched. So if we're doing it now, never. The excitement.
He's got a better work punch, Kenny Omega or Big AJ.
I will answer that on a different video to this one because I want to keep the comments positive. But what would be the V Rizzler? He does that before he does the V trigger.
The Rizzler hits the V. Kenny teaching the Rizzler the V trigger.
I love it.
So the Rizzler can wipe out fools in Costco who are getting in his way.
I could easily see him welcoming them to New Japan for the first time, ahead of big AJ working the G1.
Japanese Costco would be so sick.
Oh, yeah.
Does it exist there? If you're from Japan, let us know if you have like a Costco or Costco equivalent. I'm sure
we're just opening up avenues of opportunity for the Costco guys. Like they need them opening up for us.
Big AJ headlining Kurikan Hall, getting the streamers put down. I'm back, brother. Anyway, if you like this video, we spoke a lot about the Rizzler this morning. You can find it right here.
Stands for boom.
Bring the boom. Bye. See you later. I'm out of gas.